Most people change. Most people think change comes from the big moments, breakthroughs, the fresh start, the dramatic decision, the 1 week where everything finally clicks. But real life is shaped far more quietly than that. It's shaped by what you repeat, the small things, the ordinary things, the things that barely seem worth noticing. How you start the morning, how often you move, how you respond when you are tired, what you do when life feels heavy, what you keep doing even when no one sees it. Because the small things you repeat shape the life you live. And once you really see that, you stop waiting for one big transformation and start paying attention to what is quietly building your future every day. A lot of people underestimate the ordinary. They think the small things cannot matter because they do not feel dramatic enough. A short walk doesn't feel life-changing. One better meal does not feel life-changing. A 5-minute pause does not feel life-changing. And maybe on their own, they do not. But life is not built from one isolated moment. Life is built from repeated moments. That is why habits matter so much. Not because they're glamorous, because they compound. And once you start understanding that, you stop asking only, what big thing should I do? You start asking, what am I repeating? That's a much more useful question. One of the biggest things I've learned over time is that life often changes long before it looks different from the outside. The shift begins quietly, a slightly better rhythm, a slightly better pause, a little more movement, a little less chaos, a little more support built into ordinary life. And none of that looks especially impressive in the moment. But then enough time passes and you realize you are coping better. You're thinking more clearly. You're recovering faster. You're less fragile. You're living differently. This is what repetition does. It shapes you from the inside out. Life is built from repeated moments. Your life is not mainly made from the occasional dramatic day. It's made from the things that happen again and again. Your mornings, your evenings, your food patterns, your movement patterns, your stress responses, your rest and your defaults. Those repeated moments become your lived environment. And over time, that environment shapes your energy, your mood, your body, your choices, your confidence, your sense of what's normal. That's why the small things matter, because they're not really small when they keep happening. And once you see that, one other truth becomes much harder to ignore. Repetition compounds whether it helps or hurts. The small things you repeat are always shaping something. They're either helping more than they hurt or hurting more than they help. This is true of habits that support you. And it's true of habits that quietly drain you. A little more sitting, a little less sleep, a little more stress left unmanaged. A little more convenience, a little less recovery. On their own, those things can look harmless, but repeated enough, they shape the direction of a life. The same is true the other way. A little more walking, a little more calm, a little more intention, a little more support, a little more healing built into daily life. That shapes a life too. This is why Fit to Thrive cares so much about ordinary life, because ordinary life is where repetition lives. And that leads to one of the most important shifts in the whole system. You do not need dramatic change to change direction. A lot of people think if the change is small, it does not count. And that is only true if you think change comes from intensity. If change comes from repetition, then small changes can matter a great deal. Because you're not only asking how big is this action, you are asking what direction this action. You are asking what direction does this action create if it keeps happening? That is a very different way of thinking. It means small does not mean pointless. Small does not mean weak. Small does not mean too little. Small can mean workable, repeatable, sustainable, compounding. And that is why small healing habits matter so much. They do not have to overpower your life in one dramatic burst. They just need to start shaping it in a better direction. That is also why the next part matters so much. Repetition shapes identity and trust. The small things you repeat do not only shape outcomes, they shape relationship. Your relationship with yourself. When you keep repeating habits that support you, you begin to trust yourself differently. You begin to feel, I can support myself. I can build from here. I can create steadier days. I can live in a way that helps me. That matters because habits are not only mechanical, they are relational. They teach you what kind of person you're becoming. And if what you keep repeating helps you feel more steady, more supported and more alive, that changes more than the habit itself. It changes your sense of self. This is why healing habits begin so small. Healing habits begin with small, daily investments for a reason, not because the ambition is low, because the system understands how life really changes. Life changes through repeated support, through actions that fit tired days, busy weeks, messy seasons, human reality. That is why small supportive actions matter, because repeated over time, they shape the life you can hold, the pressure you can carry, the recovery you can access, the joy you can sustain. That is the deeper logic. The small things you repeat shape the life you live. I always really frame it as, you get good at what you do regularly. And what we're saying here is that you become what you do regularly. So you are creating your future right now. Every step, every moment. And you can see it around the people who are older than you, that you love. They raised you. You've seen them for a long time. You've known them. They are living the life they created from all their habits over time, from the life that they have lived. So once you really understand that, something else starts to open up. Because when the small things you repeat begin supporting you better, daily life itself starts to feel different. Movement starts to count differently. Play starts to matter differently. Ordinary life starts to become part of the healing. So watch the next video, where I show why play and daily life count as real movement, and why the things that look ordinary often matter far more than people realize.